Hey guys, I'm David DiMuzio, and I'm here with...
Nathan Freitas.
And Nathan is the founder and host of the podcast Creative Entrepreneur Blueprint. We just recorded a podcast for his show. It's a really in-depth interview, kind of discussion about a lot of things that have changed my life and a lot of what Nathan's been going through and like his entrepreneurial journey. And it's pretty interesting, so I highly suggest you check it out. But towards the end of the podcast, we kind of touched on a subject that I thought would make for a cool YouTube video, and that's why you should think like Taylor Swift. It's Taylor Swift for me, but it might be somebody else for you, depending on what your passion is and what your career is looking like. I recently had this kind of thought. I've actually never been a really big Taylor Swift fan, but I've started admiring her much more in the past couple of years because of what she stands for, and I've realized that the reason I think Taylor Swift is so successful is because she seems to have a very clear idea of what she wants to do and what she wants to accomplish. And also because she makes other young girls feel like they can accomplish anything. They love her because they go, man, Taylor Swift can do it, I can do it. And I really admire that about her, that she gives people that feeling. I kind of started thinking recently, because there have been a few goals that I've had the last few years that I haven't accomplished. I wondered, like, why have I not accomplished these goals? I realized maybe it's because I'm thinking like myself. And I think like if Taylor Swift suddenly was unknown, nobody knew who she was, and she moved to Nashville with a guitar, but she still maintained all of the knowledge that she has accrued over the last 15 years of performing and promoting herself, and she moved to Nashville with that knowledge, I think it'd be a matter of like a year or two, and she'd be back in Nissan Stadium, selling out the stadium. Right. And that's because she knows like every step of the way.
And she knows the people.
She knows and she knows the people too. I wasn't even thinking the people so much, but I was just more thinking like the steps. A lot of people look at me and they go like, how have you gotten to that place? Right. And I think, wow, this is so easy. I just do this, this, and this. Right. And because I've already done it, it seems so simple. I now am starting to try and apply the idea of like, what would Taylor Swift do?
I love that. And it resonated with me.
Yep.
Because as we were talking, I've been reading this book called U Squared, little number 2 squared, right? And it's about taking quantum leaps, and we have all these limiting beliefs that we have to take the next best step, and the next one. And at the end of the day, you've got 10 steps before you can be this Taylor Swift, if you will, in your industry or your career. And the fact of the matter is, you actually can skip a lot of those steps if you think outside the box, or if you think like a Taylor Swift, or again, whoever it is you aspire to be.
You said the phrase outside of the box. And to me, that's a lot harder to apply.
I agree. Because
outside, you're like, where's the box and how do I go outside of it? To me, it's so much easier for me to just name a person and just go, like when I receive an email, and I receive the email and I go, how would Taylor Swift respond to this email? Well, if I want to be where Taylor Swift is, then I need to respond to this email like Taylor Swift does. If I want to be where Taylor Swift is, if I want to get a producer for my next album, instead of me doing what like most people in my position would be, which is like, okay, well, like, I guess I probably should like save money. I don't know how many people are going to hear this. I should go down to like the local music store and talk to some people and figure out who the producer that's kind of in my budget range is. And, it's all, and Taylor Swift wouldn't do that. Taylor Swift would decide, I want to record this pop album. Who is the greatest pop producer in the world? Okay. It's Max Martin. I'm going to go to him and I'm going to write songs with him and I'm going to release, and I don't care that I've never had a hit in pop music before. Like, I'm going to do that at the highest level possible because I want to be the biggest star in the world. Right. And I'm like, wow, that's just, it's so powerful, That's why she's so powerful and so successful. And so I am thinking of now my future music. I'm like, okay, if I want this to be as good as, if I want to put out this rock song and I want it to be as good as my favorite Soundgarden song, then I need to go find Soundgarden's producer and pay them or hire them or bribe them or whatever into blackmail, whatever. There's no limit here.
I don't
We're thinking like
that.
Taylor Swift. I'm joking, Taylor. I love you. Yeah, and just do whatever it takes to reach that instead of thinking, you know what I mean? It's just that.
Yeah.
So I feel like most people, whatever you're going through right now in your career, you're working in a hotel and you're thinking, okay, I would love to own a hotel, but you're just the front desk person at the hotel. Instead of thinking like, what should you do to someday own a hotel? Start thinking, what would the guy who already owns this hotel do?
Yeah.
To buy and start a new hotel, and start doing what they would do.
Well, you hear a lot of people say the act as if. Mm-hmm. It's very similar. It is funny because when David shared this idea of acting like Taylor Swift, it took me a minute to kind of comprehend what you meant, but then it all clicked, and I loved the way, because you're right, the outside of the box, that's too vague. Think like, act as if, those types of things, that makes sense. I was just listening to this podcast, this multi-millionaire talking about getting fired from his job and going through the process of starting his own career again. Mm-hmm. And he was, he bought like a $2,000 suit, which back in the 80s was a big deal. Was driving around in a limousine, and it was because he was acting as if he was his customer. Mm-hmm. And there's so much. There's a whole mindset that comes with that when you're stepping up into that place. When you're acting, Kanye West was Kanye West before he was even known. You hear about these stories, right?
Yeah. Where people will say he never had a hit. Kanye had never had a hit, but yet you walked in the studio with him and he acted like he was the biggest rap star in the world.
Right.
And he became that.
He talks about like stepping in, and his thing is like just stepping into who you are. And sometimes that might be like, frilly on the edges. It might be a little crazy, but at least you're fully being.
Yeah.
And so this whole idea of acting as if you're Taylor Swift or whoever it is you're emulating.
I think it's like a chance to transport yourself. You've spent your entire life developing every limiting belief that you have. So it's hard to you can't just get rid of those. You can't snap your fingers and get rid of all those. The only way I think sometimes to do that is to literally just start trying to think like somebody else and imagine what they would do, not you.
Now you shared one other thing with me that I thought puts like gasoline on this fire. So already now as you're like acting as if you're someone, that's a great mentality shift in its own.
Yep.
But early on in the podcast, to me, you were creating this space. You talked about doing less, but doing it better.
Yes.
And that to me was just like, you couple these things together and you're kind of unstoppable. Like it's a pretty amazing way of approaching it.
So it's, you could say try and act like Taylor Swift, but if you're responding to every email and you're taking every gig opportunity, you're overwhelmed with things that Taylor Swift might do, then you could still, I feel like, have some trouble. But if you're, one of the important things, and I made another blog kind of about this, that hit me a few months back, is I heard this phrase, less but better, from a book called Essentialism. And man, that phrase, trying to do everything in my life, applying less but better. So if I have 3 guitars, selling the 2 that I don't play as much and keeping the 1, or selling all 3 and buying just 1 better guitar, hire the best producer that I could, and releasing 1 incredible song.
Yep.
I feel like this is a great concept to apply. Just looking at everything that you do and thinking, how can I do less but better? Or how can I own less but better? How can I have less friends but really concentrate on the friends that I've got?
It applies to every aspect of your life.
Yep.
When I moved in this place, like the things on these shelves behind me are all used. Those books, I read them. The pictures, obviously, of people I care about.
Yeah.
Everything has a purpose. And when you think about this, it's like, let's take Taylor Swift as an example. Let's keep riffing on this idea. You think about her life, and us like kind of sitting here in our normal day-to-day lives, I haven't experienced that level of stardom.
Yeah.
And so it's easy for my mind to go, how does she handle all of that?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is she is no different than you and I. She is human. She has the same concerns and fears.
Just as many hours in the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. She's so like you think about, yes, she has this empire underneath her, but at the end of the day, she is still taking action within those hours of her day. So it is very easy for you and I to act as a Taylor Swift. It really is.
Yep.
And that,
we possess everything Taylor Swift does.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking of the top 3 biggest country artists in the world. And actually, the number 1 best-selling artist of all time. Do you know who it is?
Country artist?
No, just artist, period. The number 1 best-selling music artist of all time. Do you know? Solo artist.
Oh, the solo artist.
Yep.
Michael
It's
Jackson?
Garth Brooks.
It is Garth Brooks.
So he's number 1 above, he's sold more albums than Michael Jackson, the biggest selling solo artist of all time. And I was thinking like,
Wow.
How in the world could I make any excuse for not doing anything that I want if Garth Brooks is the number 1? Because you're talking about like a guy with like, he's not particularly good looking.
Right.
We love you, Garth. You're awesome. Like obviously we admire.
But you're not
the
a
number 1
GQ
seller,
model.
but you're not like,
Yeah.
you weren't born, like he was not born with anything really special other than his own mind and his like willingness to achieve that, like he's not particularly good looking. He's not a good enough singer to win American Idol or anything like that. He's not an incredible instrumentalist. Like there's literally like nothing other than just his own. I mean, I'm sure he possesses plenty of skills, but like there's nothing other than his desire or nothing that we were not born with that he was born with, And then actually, if you look, the number 2 biggest country country star in the world is Kenny Chesney. Again,
Really?
Yeah. Again, nothing that we weren't born with that, or you weren't born with. Number 3, I think, is Tim McGraw. He's a pretty good looking dude, but like, again, like we're talking, like none of these guys have anything that like, we should not be able to possess. You look at Michael Jackson and you think, okay, like, Michael Jackson born into this particular family, incredible voice, like awesome dancer. Like he possessed he was a unique dude,
Right.
But you look at the biggest selling 3 country artists in the world and they don't have anything that like you and I can't accomplish. So like, just think about that when you're setting your goal,
I get lit up. I get so excited about that idea, like just like honest excitement, because what that means is that doesn't mean like I am personally not sitting here saying that each one of us can be a Garth Brooks or a Kenny Chesney or fill in the blank. But what it does tell me is that we can be like massively more impactful in the world than we even think we can.
That's exactly it.
What's the stat? Like most humans only use 10% of their capacity or their like capabilities. They only tap into 10% of that.
Yeah.
Like that. Like so, this whole idea of just thinking as someone else, it pushes all the limiting beliefs out and says, if they can do it, I can do it, or at least something similar.
Yeah, right? I'll often sit in my bedroom and practicing guitar and going, okay, I'm not a good enough guitar player yet. I can't sing well enough yet. I can't do this well enough yet. And telling myself all these things. And then I came across the top 3 country artists in the world. And I was like, really? Like, actually, I really can, It's really just what I'm telling my own mind.
For me, that takes all the weight of the world off my shoulders. It tells me that I can be me, imperfectly me, and it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
What other people think. There's just such a blessing in that.
Yeah. So a lot of my fans are in the Philippines, and so Manny Pacquiao is a great person to think about because he's literally like it was just a guy living on the street, and to one of the most successful athletes in the world. So, and there's really just countless examples. But I find, at least myself, I often tell myself the other examples as like an excuse as to why I can't approach that. So it might be a good idea to tell yourself, what would Manny Pacquiao do instead of what would, you do.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you check out the whole podcast and leave a comment, either sharing some of your goals or maybe some of your limiting beliefs or who you might start emulating and thinking like. And we really hope this helps you.
See ya.